Hey, welcome to Restoring Christine, the story about the rebuilding of the 1956 Chevrolet Bel Air right here in my garage. Stick around. So first things first. This channel is about a car that we call Christine. And the name is pretty obvious when you look at the car that's red with a white stripe down the side. 1983, Stephen King's book was made into a movie about the car with the name Christine. That Christine is not this Christine, of course, and I'm not trying to kid anybody into thinking that this is in any way the 1958 Plymouth Fury that was in the movie Christine. No. This is a 1956 Chevrolet Bel Air, where the movie in Stephen King's book is about a 1958 Plymouth Fury. And don't mistake the two. So I know I'm going to get a number of comments in the videos as to come. Christine's really a Plymouth Fury. I know. But when you look at this car, that's really what the image that my kids thought of when they were little. And so we called her Christine, and ever since then she's been Christine. So this is a very fond family friend. We've had her since 2005. Let me give you a little bit of background about this story, about how did we get to this point. So, back when I was in high school, when I started driving, my dad and I bought a 1974 Chevelle. It was made out of sugar steel, and that Chevelle didn't have a trunk. It rusted. It required a lot of body work, and he taught me how to do body work with minimal things. We had sheet metal shears was the most fancy tool we had. We had a pop rivet, handheld pop rivet gun. Hardware store sold pop rivets, and he used to be able to get scrap pieces of sheet metal from a sheet metal shop nearby. And we went about repairing that 1974 Chevelle and all the rust with pop rivets and Bondo and grinders and sanders, and we tried as best we could, and we really made a decent job with that body. Buying replacement parts wasn't a thing. We didn't have a welding machine, so we couldn't do it that way. I graduated up from that 1974 Chevelle, and we bought a 1970 Chevelle. And again, he and I got into it, except this time I'm a little smarter about it. I'm a little wiser. I knew I had a little more skill to it. So in that we made that 1970, we built that 1970 Chevelle and repaired the rust that was on it, which wasn't as bad as the 74, but eventually we painted that car candy apple red. I didn't paint it. I paid somebody to paint it. We prepped the car, and we brought it to a friend of mine that had a body shop, and he gave me a sweetheart deal, and he painted it candy apple red from the house of color. It had a silver and orange base coat with a red clear on top of it, and it was gorgeous. So I had that 1970 Chevelle for a few years, and eventually maturity catches up, and I was hot rodding on the streets, and the car just wasn't very reliable to get me back and forth to work. So I ended up having to sell the car. I really hated to do it, but it was just too unreliable, and I needed something sensible, so I got me a sensible car, 79 Monte Carlo, and at the time it wasn't that old, and I sold the Chevelle. So I hated to let it go, but really what was happening was that at that age I was getting out of the high school hot rodder phase of my life. Well, I was always a gearhead, so it didn't last very long. The Monte Carlo got stolen. I didn't have it very long before somebody helped themselves to it, and we bought a 1968 Chevelle. I found a 1968 Chevelle. It was a college student that was in town here, and he was graduating up, evolving from the car, and the 68 Chevelle was tired. It was what you would classify as a survivor today. And if we'd have known then what we know now, what we do now about survivors, I'd have left it alone. But no, we wanted to restore it, so my dad and I again got after it in the shop, and we stripped it all down. We ended up painting that car 1976 Corvette yellow. But the thing about that car is I actually painted it. I did all the work on that car with my dad, but I painted that car myself. So we brought it in the shop, and I was painting it with a $35 Campbell House Spelled cheapy gun that most people would consider to be barely a primer gun today. And it was a borrowed compressor, a borrowed shop. We didn't have plastic up in the shop. We just had the car in the middle of the open area, and we shot it yellow, and it came out gorgeous. I really liked that car. That '68 Chevelle. It had a 307 in it, and I left it alone. I didn't hot rod it at all. And it took me back and forth. I had a long distance relationship that carried me from here 6 hours into Florida, and that car used to go like literally like the song, like with one headlight. It used to go with no dash lights, and I had a flashlight that I used to shine on the speedometer to make sure that I wasn't speeding, and also to check my gas gauge. And another thing about the Chevelle, 307 ran with 2-speed power glide, but it needed a quarter bowl for every tank of gas, and that was one of its downfalls. But I liked that car a lot, and I kept it up until we found, surprisingly, that Monte Carlo came back into my life. The police recovered it. I got the car back. It was many months later, but so now I had two cars. Eventually, continuing to grow older, all right, got rid of the Chevelle, got rid of the Monte Carlo, and got me combined the value of the two to get me a nice daily driver. So, but for those years, I was out completely not doing anything gear related. Until one day I was hanging out with some of my cousins that I don't get to see very often, and they were all talking about going to the track over the weekend, and I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. And they were talking about circle track, roundy round on dirt. They were like, hey, yeah, we're going to watch so-and-so race this weekend. You want to come with us? And I said, yeah, sure, let's go. So I'd never seen it before, and I'll tell you what, I sat in that grandstand, and I was just completely taken by it. I really wanted to do it. I said, yeah, this is something that I can do. Man, we can do this. Let's go beating and banging. So I got a 1978 Cutlass body, got a small block from Speedway Motors, and then put it all together, put a roll cage in, learned how to weld by putting the roll cage in, and then I learned how to weld even more by building a trailer for it. But away we went, and I raced that car from 1995 to 1999 or so, or 1996 to 1999, and then I had to park it because we were building a house. And as we were building a house, I didn't have time for the car, so the car sat for 2 seasons. I didn't want to get rid of it. So after the second season of missing out, I said, you know what, I'm going back racing next season. I'm going back racing. So I took the car and I figured, all right, well, I was gonna do some things, some undercover things to try to make it a little faster, and I made it as fast as I possibly could and did a few little pieces, parts of trickery on it. And took it out, and we shook it down for one night, 2 nights, maybe the third night we had it out at the track. And after the third night, then we were ready to go. And I was racing in a heat race on a slick, greasy track, going to turn 1. And as I go into turn 1, I pitched the car, kick out the side. It was 3-wheel brakes, so I stabbed the brake, kicked the car, kicked it in. The car sets in the corner, and out of the left ear, I hear a motor coming right at my driver's side door. And I turn and I look, and it's another competitor. And he runs into me, flat slab, right into the, T-bones me into the door, flips the car. I'm going over 4 different times. And it was the most scary thing I think I've ever been in. When the car landed, long story short, it was junk. I get home, I told my wife, I can't do this anymore. We're not doing this anymore. I had a brand new baby on the way. We already had 2. We had our 3rd. She was 8 months pregnant when this happened. So I looked at the car in the driveway, and it's literally junk. And I said, I don't need to do this anymore. So I sold it for parts, for what I could get out of it. And I said, well, you know, I need to get back into doing something, again, hot rod related, or gear related, or car related. But you know what? We got little kids. I got a small family. I don't have time to really climb in the garage and then do all the restoration stuff like I used to. I want something that's a roller. I want something I can put the key in, we can go buy it, put the key in and go. And we can go to cruise nights, kids can grow up in this thing. And I was thinking, what did I want? Well, I was always a fan of the Tri-5s, 1955, 6, 7 Chevrolets. So something about this 56, the middle child. I liked the middle child. And what I liked, I wasn't quite sure in my mind what I liked about it until I actually spotted it, and it was actually the 2-tone coloring of the Bel Air model. The Bel Air model has the color, the second color stripe comes all the way up in between the 2 pieces of stainless, and it was like, that's the car I want. I want that 56 Bel Air. So I looked for months and months and months and months finally found one that was, I wasn't asking a fortune, and he wasn't too far away from me. It was close enough. It was 5.5 hours away from me in Birmingham, Alabama. I could pick it up on a trailer and drive it. So me and a buddy of mine went up there to Pelham, Alabama, on the outskirts of Birmingham, and made a deal in this car. A few days later, I went back with my family to go pick it up. My son, my little boy, brought 75 cents in his pocket and gave the man 75 cents to help Daddy buy this car. And that's a story that still to this day gives me chills. I love the story, and it's true, and it's from the heart. And you know, that son of mine is now in college, but he was a little toddler at the time when this happened. So we get the car home, and it's everything I ever wanted it to be. We took it out to cruise nights. We took it out to, if you've never been to cruising the coast on the Mississippi Gulf Coast the first week of October, you're really missing out. I think last year there were almost 9,000 cars. It was like 8,700 cars registered last year. It's insane. 45 miles of coastline. Love it. We go every year. And when we go, I get the opportunity to meet new people, hang around with, you know, literally thousands of gearheads that think just like me. Or in this case, maybe you would be. I don't know. So I've even had the chance. One day we were in Ocean Springs, and I got the chance to meet Dennis Gage from My Classic Car, and I got a picture of him standing, you know, me standing right here looking like a dork, and there's Dennis Gage with his handlebar mustache. So we got to do a lot of nice things with the car, and I love driving it. I mean, I've got just memories of driving this car on the interstate. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. One thing that wasn't working is it's a hot rod. It's got a 350 with a big cam, 411 gear, and 4-speed. It is a noisemaker. It's got stinky exhaust. It's got no air conditioning. It's no power brakes, no power steering, no power nothing. No air conditioning. Roll the windows down, vent windows, vents on the floor. That's your air conditioning. What do you think? And she's like, well, I've always liked the Cutlasses. So I started looking, and now, you know what? I want a project. So I got time now. My kids are a little older. I got a little time. I want a project. So I went looking on Craigslist, and I found a Cutlass, 1971 Cutlass convertible that was a basket case. And we took it, we brought it right here in this garage, and I went through the whole thing, bumper to bumper, frame off. I took it off the frame, and I thought the body was in much better shape than what it was, but I ended up having to replace the floor pan. Ended up rolling a chassis out, changing every gas line, brand new wiring harness, brand new exhaust, brand new fuel lines, brand new brake lines, brand new. Converted it to disc brakes in the front with the factory parts. I also went to, I got a 350 Rocket, bought it actually radiator to drive shaft, a whole running gear out of another guy that coincidentally happened to be no more than 600 yards from where I bought this car in Pelham, Alabama. Mind-blowing story of the cosmos right there. So I got the Cutlass running. I got the Cutlass together, and we started taking it. We wanted to take it to cruising the coast the first year, so I'm working on 2013 and 2016. Working on the Cutlass. 2016 October's coming around, and I'm like, no, we're gonna go in this Cutlass. And I mean, we were like thrashing to put the interior in. And eventually, it got to be like Wednesday in the week, and or Tuesday afternoon, and it was getting later and later in the week, and I'm already missing out on some. So I said, you know what? Look, let's stop. Let's roll Christine out of mothballs. She'd been sitting. I'm gonna polish it. I'm gonna buff it. I'm gonna clean it. Make sure the carburetor's right. It's got a double pumper Holly on it. Make sure all that's right, and get it running. And we're just gonna take Christine. So sure enough, we do that. The next day we leave. We get on the road. I'm boogieing up the interstate, and I'm feeling a rumble, and the next thing you know, and the rumble's getting louder and louder and louder, and I get in between, I get on this bridge. It's, I don't know how long the twin span bridge at Slidell, it's pretty long, it's like, you know, several miles long, but I'm already a mile or two into it, and then I'm coming along this bridge, and the tire just comes apart at the driver's side rear. So when it does, I pull over, she pulls over behind me, I get out and I said, I'm going to try to limp it. And I tried limping it as much as I could, and said, after I got a few hundred feet, I said, no, we're going to wrap the tire around the axle. So we stopped and said, no, I'm going to change this tire. So I got out, and she was back behind me with the flashers on, but I was literally like inches from the traffic lane changing this tire. And I'll tell you what, you'd have thought I was at the Daytona 500 changing the tire as fast as I whipped that thing on and off and got the new one on. You know, so we made it to Cruising the Coast, and then it was the last time we took Christine to Cruising the Coast. After that, by November, a month later, we finished the Cutlass. Cutlass came out beautiful, and that became our primary car. And poor Christine didn't have a place to live except for in the driveway under a car cover. The Cutlass was in the garage. So rust blisters were starting to happen. They were already coming. I knew they were getting there, and it was getting worse and worse. And the paint was fading worse and worse, even though it was under a cover. So I finally said, you know what, I managed to find a place where it's like I got Christine now, she's stored in a warehouse. So that's been since 2016 or 2018, she's been in a warehouse. So now 3 years later, I'm standing here, and it's like, all right, it's time. It is time. It is time for Christine to have her due. So I am giving myself a year and a half until October of next year. October 22 is my goal. I'm hoping to have this car finished by then for Cruising the Coast 2022. I've already made some changes to the way I've been doing this compared to the way I did the Cutlass. This is going a lot quicker because I'm working smarter. But this is the introduction to this channel. So every week whenever I get to the videos. So every time I release a new video, please tune in. It might be just a blog entry. It might be about some oddity about the car. It may be something about its design. It may be something about the repair. Who knows? It might be about a piece of equipment I'm using. It might be just some anecdotal story. I don't know. So I appreciate all of you watching. I appreciate you tuning in. Welcome to the channel. I'm looking forward to this. This ought to be fun. Thanks for watching.